Hello and welcome to the third episode of the Product Man podcast. I'm Eunice. Today we're going to talk about three fundamental concepts in the product world that we hear the most but also confuse the most. Who is a product manager? What is Agile? And what is Scrum? If you're ready, let's start. I designed this episode in detail specifically because these concepts are experienced differently in every company in real life. The version described in books and the version teams apply often look nothing alike. So today I want to present you with a framework as clear as possible by bringing together theory, practice, and the realities I've seen in my own career. Let's start with the product manager first. Who is a PM and what do they do? I started my career in strategic planning. I was working at a large bank in the finance sector. A large part of my job involved data analysis, reporting, cost optimization, and process improvement, topics closer to the business side. Most of the work we did back then wasn't exactly product management, but it gave me an incredible foundation: problem solving, analytical thinking, and establishing the right communication with business units. After strategic planning, I transitioned to the product side, and my career quickly evolved into more dynamic, competitive environments. First, I worked at one of Turkey's important startups. Then, I worked at a San Francisco based quick commerce startup. Here, I managed four different products simultaneously. So, I had the experience of developing products at different scales, in different cultures, and for different user segments. Because of this, I experienced firsthand how the PM role changes. Now let's talk about the PM role. The most fundamental misconception about this role is this: the PM is the person who dictates the solution. No, that's wrong. As the product book highlights, a good product manager manages the problem, not the solution. So saying, let's put a button here or let's build this feature is not the PM's job. The PM's job is this: why are we solving this problem? Who are we solving it for? Does the solution to this problem really create value? The solution emerges together with a team. I see PM responsibility under three headings: vision, strategy, and execution. Vision answers this question: where is this product going? Strategy answers: with what steps will we get to that vision? And execution is the kitchen work: backlog management, sprint preparation, user testing, data analysis, team alignment, roadmap. Let me give you a real life example. During the time I managed the warehouse panel at the startup I worked for, the vision was very clear: to speed up warehouse operations and shorten order delivery time. Because this vision was clear, the question, does this development really make the warehouse worker faster, was our compass. If the answer was no, we would push it back in the backlog. On the other San Francisco based startup side, the situation was even more interesting. I was managing four products at the same time: admin panel, vendor app, courier app, and e commerce site. All had different users and different problems. Since the courier app was critical, the initial strategic focus was there, because the speed on the courier side determined the speed of the entire system. Now, let's look at how company cultures change the product manager role. Being a product manager at Amazon is a completely different experience. There is a working backwards culture. Before developing something, you write a press release, meaning you describe your future product as if it already exists today. This locks you into the user experience, not the solution. In the Spotify model, there is a completely different culture: the squad and tribe structure. The product manager there is not the team leader, but the team aligner. Developers, designers, data scientists, everyone is at an equal table. The product manager's power is not in directing, but in providing alignment. In European startups, the product manager is a complete Swiss Army knife. User interviews, data analysis, metric tracking, sketching drafts, sprint planning, it all intertwines. My startup experience was exactly like this. In Turkey, in most companies, the product manager and product owner roles are intertwined. Strategy, analysis, and operations are all loaded onto the product manager. This isn't a bad thing. It's the maturation process of the sector, but understanding the role correctly is very critical. Now let's move on to Agile. Agile is not a methodology. It is a mindset. Saying, let's work fast is not agile. The essence of agile is this: if the world changes, you must be able to change too. You must move forward with small steps, get fast feedback, and change direction if necessary. How is Agile lived in real life? At Amazon, Agile is lived through customer obsession and a culture of experimentation. At Spotify, Agile is lived through autonomous squads. In Turkey, sometimes it just remains as a name. Let me get into the history a bit, because the best way to understand Agile is to understand why it emerged. Why was Agile born? Until the 2000s, tech companies worked with the waterfall model, meaning you plan everything from the start. 40 pages of requirements, 10 pages of technical documents, a 6-month timeline, design, development, test, release. The problem was the world wasn't that simple. User expectations were changing, competition was increasing, the market was shifting. That's why companies made 6-month plans. The product came out 6 months later, but this time the user wanted something else. So waterfall became unable to catch up with the real world. In 2001, 17 software developers gathered in the US and wrote the Agile Manifesto. The manifesto says individuals and interactions are more valuable than processes and tools. Working software is more valuable than comprehensive documentation. Customer collaboration is more valuable than contract negotiation. Responding to change is more valuable than following a plan. So Agile says the world is changing, you must be able to change too. So how is Agile applied? The most known method is Scrum, but the application of Agile can be done in dozens of different ways. For example, Scrum, Kanban, Lean, Extreme Programming, Dual Track Agile, Spotify model, Shape Up. Agile is not a method, it is an umbrella concept. There are 5 basic concepts at the core of Agile. If these are well understood, the rest falls into place. Value is produced early. Instead of planning for 6 months and releasing a product all at once, the goal is to release the smallest thing that produces value early. That is why the MVP culture is the foundation of Agile. There is continuous feedback. After the product is released, constant feedback is received from the user or internal teams. Teams organize themselves. An agile team means a team that makes decisions together, carries responsibility together, plans together, and solves problems together. No project manager comes and gives orders saying, "You will do this." Adapting to change is essential. In Agile, there is a plan, but it is not sacred. If the market changes, you pivot. If the user gives feedback, you change direction. If priorities shift, the roadmap is updated. Small steps plus fast learning. The entire tempo of Agile relies on this logic. Plan, do, measure, learn, adapt, repeat. The faster this cycle can be repeated, the faster the product develops. Reading about Agile in books is easy. The real issue is what it looks like in real life. First, Agile at Amazon. 2 pizza teams plus working backwards. Scrum is not used very often at Amazon. Agile is lived like this. The team is small, just enough to be fed by 2 pizzas. The product manager writes a press release. The question, what value does this product provide to the user, is constantly asked. Big features are broken down into small pieces. Everything is measured. Agile here is not a rhythm, it is a culture. Agile at Spotify, squad, tribe, chapter focused model. Spotify reinterpreted Agile according to its own needs. Each squad determines its own sprint rhythm. Most squads use Kanban, not Scrum. Alignment plus autonomy is the biggest principle. Agile in startups. Our sprint is 1 week, but everything can change. Agile in startups is usually lived like this. A 1-week sprint, new work entering every day, the word urgent used 10 times a day, the team is fast, chaos is high, the product manager is a Swiss Army knife, the CEO comes in the middle of the sprint saying, let's release this immediately. But because the team is small, learning happens really fast. Agile in Turkey. Waterfall with Scrum sauce. The version of Agile seen in some companies is like this. Daily is 30 to 45 minutes. Planning is 3 hours. Retro is cancelled. 5 urgent tasks in the middle of the sprint. Jira backlog is a graveyard section. Review is a PowerPoint presentation. This is neither Agile nor Scrum. This is meeting-driven waterfall. Now let's come to Scrum. Scrum is the most known application framework of Agile. It is not a method, it is a framework. It gives you rhythm, protects team culture. Scrum's goal is to produce value early, reduce risk, align teams, and make processes transparent. Scrum has three pillars: transparency, inspection, adaptation. The best way to understand Scrum is to discuss a sprint cycle in detail. The heart of Scrum is the sprint. A sprint is a fixed length between 1 to 4 weeks. In my own experience, I find 1 or 2 weeks to be the healthiest. When the sprint ends, a potentially working product must emerge. This is the sine qua non of Scrum. The stages of a sprint planning, not an order, but a focus meeting. The purpose of planning is to determine the sprint goal, to choose as a team which tasks will be taken from the backlog, and to check capacity. The mistake in real life is saying, we are taking these 10 tasks, you can finish them, right? This is not an order, this is a consensus process. Good planning happens like this. The product manager explains the problem. We want to offer this value to the user in this sprint. The product owner presents the backlog simply. The developer states the team capacity. The team decides together. Having a clear sprint goal is critical. If there is no sprint goal, the sprint equals a to-do list. Daily, a 15-minute team rhythm. The daily relies on three questions. What did I do yesterday? What am I doing today? Is there a blocker? The purpose of the daily is micro decisions, micro alignment, early problem detection. The mistake is giving a report to the manager, an interrogation room, talking for 45 minutes. The right way is team sync, short, standing up, sincere. Sprint review, not slides. The product is shown. The purpose of the review is to show the produced value and get feedback from stakeholders. The mistake in real life is a PowerPoint presentation, narrating, we did these in this sprint, and not showing code. The correct review, the product is opened, the working part is shown, we solved this problem like this is explained, feedback is received. Retrospective, the biggest improvement happens here. The purpose of the retro is to change the process for the better, strengthen team culture, and identify obstacles. In a good retro, these questions are asked: what went well, what went wrong, what did we learn, what can we change? The mistake in real life is canceling the retro, saying there is nothing to talk about anyway, or only criticizing problems. A good retro increases the quality of the team by 2 to 3 times in the long run. Now let's come to the anti-patterns of Scrum. Adding new work in the middle of the sprint, the pressure of you can finish this in planning, the daily taking 45 minutes, opening slides in the review, skipping the retro, the backlog turning into a dump, the sprint being dependent on a single person, the culture of finishing everything at the end of the sprint, design coming out within the sprint, tasks getting squeezed into the last 2 days. These are typical behaviors of companies that do Scrum on the surface but work as waterfall at the core. The most important gain of Scrum, the thing Scrum gains you is not speed. What Scrum gains you is focus, predictability, plus team alignment. Correctly applied Scrum reduces stress, strengthens team culture, gives value to the user earlier, makes mistakes noticed early, and the roadmap comes out more realistic. I can say Scrum's greatest power is here. Here, the most critical warning of the product book comes into play. If you are not solving the right problem, neither Scrum nor Agile can save you. I experienced this very clearly on the warehouse side. A complaint came that the barcode is read late, the system is slow. At first glance, the solution seemed like, let's change the interface, let's change the reader, let's update the software. But when we dug a little, we saw that the real problem was lighting. The light changed, the problem was solved. Zero code development. I can say this is the essence of product management. Today we talked about the product manager role, the philosophy of Agile, the rhythm of Scrum, and how company cultures shape these. I enriched it with what I experienced in my own career. I integrated the problem-focused approach of the product book into the episode. If you like this episode, we can talk about the differences between a product manager and product owner, the discovery process, metric selection, and roadmap preparation in the future. I'm Eunice. Thank you for listening to the third episode of the Product Man podcast. See you in the next episode. Bye.